Man, some days when you get off work or you just have a bad day, you just need something good to watch to make you feel better. And I feel that Uramichi Oniisan is that for me. Hi, it's Romania Black, and yeah, I just had a gross afternoon, and I just wasn't feeling down and not myself, and I was like, I need to watch something that's happy and funny and possibly filled with existential crises, but who needs to know about that, right? So we're on episode 7 of Uramichi Oniisan. We are officially at the halfway point because it's 13 episodes for the season. And I've got some comments that I want to talk about before we start this happy jaunt into this new episode. H Banana 7 talks about way back in episode 3 that the swallow, like the swallow, rinse, and gargle thing that the title of the episode is based off of is tying back to a purifying ritual. You don't full on gargle like with Listerine, but it was mainly used before entering a Shinto shrine, and you kind of swished water and did that, and it was like a purifying ritual. It kind of fell out of place during COVID, so they said that it's not really quite done the same way now. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. So new things I did not know about, but apparently the title of episode 3 has ties to that, which the idea of a purifying ritual and the events of episode 3, those kind of go hand in hand now. So I'm glad that you pointed that out, H Banana. Thank you for doing that. Tammy notes that the King Records logo that we keep seeing at the beginning of these episodes is tied to a recording company that is a major shareholder or publisher with Kodansha. And the Seiyu or anime department is now called King Amusement Creative. And artists including Miyano Mamoru and Nana Mizuki are affiliated with it. But it is not their particular agency. It's a whole different thing. And honestly, the world of seiyuu and voice actors in Japan it's its own industry. It's insane. I cannot imagine. And I feel like it's so interesting to see how Japanese culture does voice acting and the voice actors versus American culture. It's such a different way of doing things, and I'm so intrigued by it. But thank you, Tamiel, for pointing that out. And then finally, Aya Mello said the Uramichi. I love this comparison. They were like, I actually made it last episode, and then they commented, and I was like, yes, Uramichi is into weird birds, like his little dream bird that gets put into all the merchandise now. And it reminds me of Haru from Free with his little fascination with the Iwatobi mascot. And I was like, yes, absolutely. So I love the idea that Uramichi is like a pseudo sports protagonist for a sports anime. And I feel like him and Haru from Free would get along great. They'd get along swimmingly, as you might say. So, yeah. I have really liked this series, and not only the evolution of the ships within the series, but also just the content in general and how funny it is, while also being relatable. If you're like between the ages of 26 and 36, you're probably enjoying this a lot. And also like nervously sighing at the same time. So I thought that was really interesting, but I'm super ready for episode 7 and to see what fresh fun awaits our crew. But we're not going to waste any more time. We're going to dive right into episode 7 of Life Lessons with Uramichi Oniisan, and we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Oh, this series has not let me down yet. Oh my gosh. Oh, I needed that. This episode was so ridiculous, and just what can we put our main character through? What can we do to him? What can we do? So the thing about it is that they have this idea, right? And on the surface, honestly, the idea with making the insect building their nests and cutting and pasting leaves, that's not a bad idea, because it's taking something from nature or that the audience might be familiar with and transforming it into an arts and crafts project. I'm like, that seems super cute. It's just all of the other pieces that go with it of making Uramichi and Iketeru into bugs. They're like, oh, Atano can just play the role of the instructor. That role will suit her. She's not the insect type. But then here's what their costumes and designs are going to be looking like. The problem is they make Uramichi look so and it's almost like exploitive, like how they make him dress. Like, in the one shot, like when he's the bagworm, I don't know if any of you have ever seen a bagworm before. I've seen a bagworm before. I have like a cedar tree outside my home, and there are bagworms that get in there sometimes. And the way that Uramichi is dressed, oddly enough, looks like a bagworm. It has like the shingles, like the shingle like coat coming off of it. It's like it looks kind of like a Kakuna from Pokemon, so it's very like oval shaped. So the fact that they have him wearing short shorts, it's like, well, they wanted to show his torso and stuff being short. They didn't want him in like full-blown khakis. And it almost feels like at times, especially with the Shiso outfit, especially with that, it feels like they are exploiting the fact that Uramichi has a very buff and toned body. It's like, it's so dastardly. I'm like, oh my God. And so we'll skip this OP. There are several characters we still haven't met yet, although we did get to meet, finally, the director, right? They show up in this, it seems. Or, well, even if it's not the director, there's somebody playing at a bar, it looks like. Oh no, the director's there. He's huddled in the fetal position. So there's another red-haired character we haven't met yet. I'm assuming that might be maybe Iketeru's sister, who her boyfriend ends up being. The fact that we had the ninja costumes in this episode, oh my God. We still have some other costumes that haven't been shown yet, and so, including like a matador, I'm concerned. But, oh my gosh, so Amon, the director, is voiced by Suda. I was like, oh, for a second, Suda's voice sounded a little trickstery, and I was like, is this Dio and Adam, or is it Suda? And it is Suda. So I'm like, yes, give me Suda in this series as well. I'm so glad Suda's in multiple shows I'm watching right now. Yes, please. I love Tadano's, like, her buns. The ponytail holders, one has a pencil and an eraser, and one has like a not a compass, but it's basically like a triangular like ruler. Those are so cute. I want those. Those are adorable. But the episode is called I Can Do It By Myself, which is interesting. The fact that the kids, they're like, we're making paper chains today, and the kids are like, also known as shackles, which bind adults. And she's like, it's a necklace. I love these kids are they're slowly getting corrupted by Uramichi and the others, and they're becoming more, like, understanding of adulthood. They're slowly being corrupted. I'm like, oh my God. She's like, right, a necklace. We're going to make them together. And she's like, I have to call out my assistants. And then she has Iketeru, like, was it Kami? Who she call out? The name he has right now is Kamiteru. So he's like Iketeru, he's like the longhorn beetle, which his outfit is actually kind of cute, but those pants are atrocious. And the kids are so excited to see him. And he says, what does he say there? He's like, if allowed, I'd like to cut everything in this world to pieces. But I'm bound by law. I was like, just some of the throwaway lines in this episode are hilarious. And then he's like, I have these scissors, but it's important I do this. If I cut this self-restraint and rationale of mine to pieces, that's when I go down. It's like, shit. So then Uramino-kun, the bagworm, comes out. His face in this entire scene where he just looks dead inside and he's like got these two googly eyes on top of his head, I was losing it. And the kids are always kind of like, they're a little creeped out by him. They're like, aren't you cold? And he's like, yes, I'd like to shape myself up in a bag for the rest of my life. So then they have the piece of paper, and they're like, all you have to do is cut 4 narrow strips. Now, I couldn't figure out if when she said strips, if she used the chin phrase, which is the whole like penis joke, and that's why he couldn't do it, because he couldn't rationale cutting it into strips and he couldn't make himself do it. I didn't know if that was the whole joke, or if he literally he can't do something simple. No. And I love that Uramichi's just staring at him like, what are we doing? I love it. I love the fact that whenever Iketeru makes like the origami, the chain necklace, it's like this most, like it's origami shape or onigiri shaped, and it's so elaborate and beautiful. But when he tries to do something as simple as cutting a strip of paper, he has a mental breakdown. He kind of is like a little bit of a savant where he can't do something really simple. And then he has a panic attack and breaks down. I love the whole time Uramichi is just like, really? This is what you break down at? This is where we're at? Like, he just looks so dead inside. And she's like, you just do this. And he can't do it. And I love that I love that the guy on the sidelines is like, help him. like, do something. Make the show go on. And she's like, oh, are you having trouble? And then he's like, even though I can't read analog watches, I could still make it work. He's like, but I can't play a longhorn beetle perfectly anymore. And she's like, this isn't a heavy role. This isn't a lot of acting. And he's like, I can't do it. And she's like, well, this isn't time for your elite acting standards to kick in. I love he looks like a cockroach. And she's like, what do we do? And then she says, Kamau, we need mental care. And it took my brain a second to be like, oh wait, Kamau is the one that has a major crush on him. So of course he's doing the head rubs and offering him water. Oh my God. He's like, you're a fine longhorn beetle right now. I'm like, oh my God. They have different personalities. It's fine. And Usao's like, what the fudge? He says the hiring rate for weirdos in this program is really high. No, Kamau is just, he is hook, line, and sinker sold on the Iketeru bandwagon. So Uramichi tries to explain very kindly to the kids. The odd thing is Uramichi, for someone that hates his life so much, he does take his job seriously enough to try to give the kids like a legit actual answer. He's like, well, sometimes, people get crushed under the pressure and they kind of lose it. And he's like, it's possible you kids have rare latent talents within you. Just know that people won't stick around you forever. It's like, it's so damn funny. And he's like, you're going to have to share all this hard work and eventually you might end up alone. And then the teacher's like, don't end up living for someone else like me. And I like that we cut over to Uramichi and he's like, yep, I don't want to call it out for what it is. So one of the kids asks, who does Oniisan live for? And he says, I'm not liberty to say anything about that. I'm like, well, are you not wanting to tell us or do you not know yourself? In any case, the kids have the little paper necklaces. It's super cute. And Kamau is like patting. Look, I'm going to be real with y'all. If you pause the screen, Kamau is patting Iketeru on the back, but his hand is firmly on Iketeru's ass. I'm just saying. It is right there. Right there. I'm like, And he's like, I'm sorry for getting worked up. I can relate to Iketeru. Sometimes doing something that is in all reality really, really simple. If you're just having a bad day or if you're stressed out from other things, it all builds up. Like for him, we find out him and his sister have had a fight. And so he's really stressed out about it. And I feel bad sometimes asking, sometimes you just have to vent and get off your back, but then I feel bad. I'm like, why are people listening and venting? That's not cool. And everybody's like, it's okay. Just take your time and rest. And I feel like I'm putting out those people and they're like, no, it's fine. But it's hard not to feel guilty sometimes. And they're like, don't worry about it. And so then as Uramichi is taking a smoke break, which he's taking a smoke break in the smoke room that right behind him is a poster about how bad smoking is for your lungs. Just some real cruel humor. And then he sees Kamau trying to show Iketeru how to cut the paper. And so he comes in and asks how it's going, and then he makes the damn onigiri that's incredible. So there's a lot of vignette scenes in this episode. So she tries to get him to sing the song, but he is just thrown out. It's not working. And they're like, what is going on? I like that they all try to figure out. And Usahara digs his own grave deeper and deeper every episode. Like, they're like, Uramichi-san says, oh, he seems preoccupied. And then Usahara says, well, he's always preoccupied. And I'm like, there is a difference. Him spacing out over onigiri is a little bit different than this. And then he bumps into the wall, which was like, I almost wonder what Uramichi, whenever he has his dead-eyed look, is thinking. Because I feel like Uramichi, I can relate to him a lot. Because he's like, I'm just going to operate under all this stress and not let it bug me. And eventually it may tear me down from within, but it's fine. Meanwhile, Iketeru bumps into the wall and Uramichi just has this look on his face like, what you doing? How is this happening? And he's like, okay, I'm gonna have to speak up and see what's going on. And he's like, are you sick? And he's like, no. He's just like, what should I do? And I like Uramichi's like, why are you asking me for advice? And he says, I can't go home. So he's been staying with his sister, right? And the huge argument that they have is over whether the cat sound is do, ra, or ra, fa. Like, which vocal pitch it is. Also, the fact that Iketeru walks around carrying Sayuri-chan, this giant, like, borzoi in his arms. Slay me. But they have an argument about it, and, like, these siblings are so blunt and, like, to the point that she's like, no, it's not possible. And then they call each other stupid and a bonehead, but he can't quite do the insult because it has the word chin in it, and he can't say it. And she's like, I can't live with you. And then how blatant she is. She's like, I can't live with you. Get out if you can't apologize. And then when he comes back and apologizes, she's like, what were we fighting about? Oh my God. It's freaking hilarious. And then when it comes back to him, he's like, I got in a huge fight with my sister. And it was over like the dumbest, most inconsequential thing. But I like that because the show's kind of poking fun at the fact that when you get in a fight with your siblings, it's usually over really dumb shit. And then after about an hour, you're like, why'd we fight over that? Was that dumb? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. And then they're like, are you guys children? I like that everybody confronts him at that moment. They're like, why would you fight over something like that? What's the deal? Is that even a fight in the first place? And I will say this. I think Kumao knows that Iketeru is insanely hot, but also insanely simple. And he's like, hey, he gets confused easily, so please don't say things like him all at once. Kumao's actually, you know what? You can tell he is fishing for that. He is fishing for that relationship hardcore. He's working for it, but he is being nice and respectful to Iketeru, so that's really sweet. And he's like, hey, he gets confused. Don't say it to him all at once. And then Tadano's like, oh my God, what do we do? So then they have, like, for a second, this big, elaborate conversation. So Tadano knows Iketeru's sister, whose name is Mabui. She knows her from college. Small world. And Iketeru has this plan. He's like, oh, take my sister. Take her from her own home. And let her stay with you. Go out for dinner or something and entice her to stay at your place. So that he can go home and sleep. And she's like, but I have a boyfriend. And then he says, well, then I'll look after your boyfriend. And she's like, no. She's like, we're not making a trade. Why are you making it more complicated? And then he says, well, how about your boyfriend comes to my place and I go to Kumatani's place? And I love that that was the trajectory. The trajectory was, hey, let me get my sister to stay with you so I can go home. And she's like, no, I have a boyfriend. Well, I'll take the boyfriend and you take my sister. And she's like, well, no, that seems weird. Well, fine, we'll make it not weird. The boyfriend can come to my house. I'll go to Kumatani's and you can keep my sister. And she's like, wait, how does that make any sense? And Kumatani instantly says, she's like, it's getting more complicated. And he's like, well, that's fine with me. He's trying to get Iketeru to like him. I'm like, damn it. And then I like how Kumatani's like, well, why don't we all go to Uramichi's place? And Uramichi's like, I didn't know I was part of this. So what? It's just ridiculous. So then the kids in the next session come in. And honestly, I feel like Uramichi does a really good job of conflict resolution with these two children. I was really proud of him. I mean, he had that existential dread in the twist of being like, you guys think your lives are full of hardships? This is what happens for adults when they apologize. Here's my life story. But honestly, as somebody that has done some training with conflict resolution, I really appreciate that he didn't yell at the kids. He didn't get, violent or anything like that. Instead, he sat down with them, he heard them both out, and he was like, hey, why don't we try this? And that's not true mediation. True mediation is when you sit down and you let both parties speak and kind of work it out amongst themselves. You're just there to kind of make sure they don't go to blows. But I love the way that Uramichi handled this. I thought it was really smart. And he manages to take his misery and use it to basically explain responsibility as an adult to kids, being like, when we're adults, we can't act like you. We have to take the begrudging burden of responsibility and apologize for things that weren't really our fault all the time. And it sucks. And that's what we have to do. And it's like, oh. And the kids kind of like, take pity on him. And then they're like, oh, hey, it's okay. And he's like, life gets harder when you keep pressing the snooze button because it's hard to get up. Then the frustration is something that gets amplified. And I like that Usahara's in the background being like, he presses that snooze button all the time. And I'm like, you just dug your grave. even further. I love it. I'm just waiting for Uramichi to just get Usahara. Oh my god. Meanwhile, Iketeru takes motivation from Uramichi's speech to the kids, goes home to see the sister, and I like the sister. The sister is reading an illustrated guide to the ocean, the ecology of the spotted garden eel. These two are something else. I don't know how else to describe them. They are such a weird pair. But then they're totally fine with each other. Oh my god. So we get Suda, who is voicing Amon, the director. He looks like a character from Jujutsu Kaisen, the way that he's dressed. It's ridiculous. And he's trying to make this special, and he asks about their dreams. I love that he instantly, like, just drops, Usahara like a stone. Usahara's like, well, I had a dream about a camel. He's like, nope, next. And he's like, Then Kumatani tells this horror story that gets everybody freaked out, and the director's like, never mind. Meanwhile, I love that Iketeru is like, oh, I had a dream where I was playing with my dog. It was fun. Like, the most wholesome, cute dream ever. And he's like, nope. And then we have Utano being like, I dreamed I had a wedding dress, but then I painted it red, and then I wore a crimson dress to the reception as well. Like, she can't she can't seem to find, like, the good in it. And he's like, nope, next. And then we have Uramichi's dream, which is about all the yakumi condiments were gone from the world. And I like the director's like, yes, go on. And it's this really sad story about all of the things that, like shiso or ginger, all of the things that give the dishes flavor, he suddenly can't find anymore. He cooks and cooks, but he can't find the things that add flavor. And so then he goes to a restaurant, but there are no scallions or pickled ginger or anything that would give, like, flavor to the actual dishes. And so he says everyone went on living while feeling that something was missing in their lives. But adults could no longer bear the world without yakumi, and they became like corpses. And that's his story. And it's this crazy metaphor that something is missing. Something was taken away from Uramichi's life that gave it flavor. And now he feels like a corpse just walking through the motions. And I was like, oh my God, that's terrifying. But the director takes inspiration, is like, oh yeah, we've got this great new segment. And at first, it looks super cute. Like the fact that they're all ninjas. I love that Utano has like the radish and she's grating it. I love the leeks that Iketeru has. The bear and the rabbit both have like the gold and the like plum ninja robes, and they have the ginger and the radishes. Like, it's so cute. And they have a little song. Their outfits are all adorable. And they're like, I did my shopping while playing with my dog. How careless of me. I thought I bought leeks, but they weren't in the bag. And then someone's like, oh, I ate a whole ginger. I'm woozy from a cold, but I don't like it much. And they're like, Myoga. That's what it is. I got obsessed with a bird that looked like Myoga. And all the kids are like getting more and more and more amped up for each and every character, as they should. And then suddenly, in comes Uramichi's character, the god of Shiso. And he has denim short shorts on and a see-through mesh shirt and gloves. The shirt says Shiso with a leaf on it, and he has Shiso leaves covering his eyes, one of which just falls off. He looks ridiculous. He looks nothing like anyone else, and they're just like, you're hot, put these skimpy clothes on. And everybody's like, oh. He's like, if I question why I'm dressed like this, I won't be able to stay here any longer. He's like, if I question it, it's over. And I love that none of the others can look at him. They can't look over him. Usahara looks, and he makes a mistake of looking, and he laughs, and then they can't hold it in. It is absolutely ridiculous, like how he's dressed. And even with the little scallops on the back of his shirt. It's so bad. And the director, of course, loves it and thinks it's solid. And the kids are like, Mom! They're like, oh, they're sending us a superb message that if you mix in too many yakumi, they'll kill each other's flavor. Which I don't think was the message, but that's how they perceived it at that household. So when they go shopping, the little girl's like, oh, don't worry, compared to the bitterness the god of Shiso was feeling with his outfit and his fashion choices, the bitter taste of Shiso is nothing. And Uramichi's like, yep. So damn funny. So damn funny. So then we have the last scene, the end credit scene, and they all go over to Uramichi's house. Of course, Usahara trips over the dumbbells. As per usual. But Uramichi's been growing shiso himself, which is a bitter herb, which is interesting. I feel like maybe he grows the bitter herb because it reminds him of himself and he likes that bitter taste. He did say on a previous episode he doesn't like sweet things. So him having the bitter thing would probably make the most sense. But I like how Usahara thought it was pot. He was like, you're growing marijuana. And he's like, you're growing illegal plants. And Uramichi's like, are you freaking kidding me? So yeah, they all decide to make a gyoza with the shiso. I'm not joking, y'all. The gyoza with the shiso and a beer sounds pretty damn good right now. That sounded like it would taste so delicious. I'm like, okay. That actually sounds really, really good. So, that's funny. But I thought it was cool that Uramichi and them all work together. It's neat because at the very beginning, they all seemed like they didn't want to hang out. And here, they're all, like, working together and making the gyoza. So it's like they're slowly but surely, like, working more and more together, which is cool. I thought that was neat. But they're like, I wonder if miyoga also goes well with gyoza. I like that they're now debating on all the plants to see if it would work. Something that's interesting about the characters is if you look on the table, Kumatani ate his salad. Usahara did not eat his salad at all. Something else is that Kumatani gets onto Usahara because he didn't like properly fold the gyoza and his were all sloppy. And Usahara says, oh, well, it doesn't matter. Who cares about small stuff like that? We're all just going to eat them anyway. And I feel like that says a lot about his personality, that he doesn't really care if he does things correctly or neatly or well organized, as long as you get to the end result. Which is interesting because Kumatani and Uramichi both seem very like perfectionist. This is how it has to be. So I think that also goes back to the ping pong game that they played, where Kumatani and Uramichi were on the same team together and they were like laser focused competitive, whereas Usahara just doesn't really even care. So I thought that was interesting. But again, they talk about how the segment on TV, they're like, it was airing, didn't it? And Uramichi's like, I hope it doesn't have good ratings because then we'll have to keep doing that segment over and over again. He's like, when we were called in, I was worried what he was going to say. And so then I thought you might have done something. So yeah, Kumatani's like, I'm glad we didn't get in trouble. But Uramichi's like, I have a feeling that this stupid, embarrassing segment is going to catch on and I'm going to have to keep doing it. And he looks out over the little thing of shiso that he's grown. And he's like, it's almost like he has this one thing he's cultivated that he's proud of, that he's been using to make this good food. And now it's going to get spoiled and ruined because he has to deal with all of this junk with the segment. And I hope that doesn't happen for him, but he's like, I feel I might start hating shiso. And then it says, contrary to his hopes and expectations. And then we see all the segments. Yakumi Shinobi was well received and very popular. It's even more popular than Germinator versus Bacterian. It was decided to continue the segment as a series. Poor him! Poor Uramichi Oniisan. I feel for him so much. So at this point, we're past the halfway point of the season, and we've gotten into several of the characters. We know that Kumatani has a major crush on Iketeru, to the point where it's absolutely ridiculous. He's fooling no one. Tadano is not happy with her boyfriend and not currently happy with her life, not being married. Usahara is kind of a slob. He's got a good heart, but he's kind of a mess. And then Uramichi is still the most mysterious out of all of them because we don't know why he's so jaded. We don't know about his gymnast past. We don't know much about his past with Usahara and Kumatani. So all we know is that he's very, very bitter now, right? And then Iketeru, I feel like if anyone we know the most about Iketeru, he is an innocent, sweet being that is trying to do no wrong. He's just kind of an airhead. I'm like, I love all these characters so much, and I'm very sad that we only have this one season right now with them, because I hope we get more. It's so much fun. But yeah. I'm really excited. Next week is the Rule of 8. And as far as Romania Black knows, the Rule of 8 has yet to steer me wrong. So it's from an 11 to 13 episode series. The 8th episode's usually a banger. So I'm really excited to get to it. But I'm glad I watched this. This made my day. It made me so excited. I'm so happy. And now I hope that you all have a great rest of your day as well. So I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and I'm excited to see your comments down below as I get ready to watch more Uramichi Oniisan.